You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
Do you want to experience the thrill of a Packers game at Lambeau Field? If so, be sure to get your game tickets from the longtime trusted source in Wisconsin, Ticket King. Visit their locations in Milwaukee and Green Bay, or just go to their website, theticketking.com. Again, that's theticketking.com.
Packers Therapy.
It's Packers Therapy. It's Chris and Dave. Luckily, we were not in Nashville like some of our very good friends of the podcast. Chuck was there, and a lot of other Packer fans witnessed an absolutely craptastic performance by the Packers as they get boat raced by the Tennessee Titans. They fall to 4-5. Amazingly, Dave, Packers are just one game out of first place. Luckily, the Vikings have chosen the absolute perfect time, as the Packers have lost 3 in a row and 4 or 5. The Vikings have lost 4 in a row. And suddenly, the Detroit Lions, who we saw in person, thanks to the generosity of Packers Therapy listeners, they are now tied with the Vikings for first place in the division. So if there's therapy, if there's good news to be had amidst the mess of today, it's that the Packers still are in the running for division title, which would give them a home playoff game. So it's really easy, I think, at this point to just look at the Packers in isolation and really how bad they're playing in every facet of the game, and then not look at the broader context and saying, as bad as they're playing, they can still make the postseason. They're right in the thick of this thing still.
You're right. They're making it very easy to be down on this team. But can we change the name or the goal of not being in first place? It is the honor of losing in the first round of the playoffs. Can we just maybe call it that instead of first place? First place sounds so much more grander than what it actually is in the NFC North. But
you never know, though. You make the tournament, and you don't know what's going to happen. The way everyone's playing right now, middle of November, that's not how they're going to be playing necessarily, in the second week of January. Packers will have some people back. They'll be healthier. I think that's maybe the biggest problem that this team has right now. They have no answer without Clay Matthews and Sam Shields on the field, period. And that makes everything worse. This defense has gone from, respectable, pretty good, to just awful.
Awful. Yeah, really awful. And I thought, as I watched the game, I can tell that the excuses are going to come out and say, we're going to be fine, it's just we're really injured. And I'm telling you, Chris, I don't think that's fair. I read something on Twitter, I think it came out of, I don't know, Tom Silverstein or Aaron Nagler referred to it, but someone was saying that Ted Thompson's reliance on the draft, and only the draft, means that he requires first, second, and third-year players to step up and play. And
would you like me to read the quote? Because I actually saw the same thing.
All right, go ahead and read it.
Okay, and this is what Dave is referring to. This is from Tom Silverstein, and this is a quote. General Manager Ted Thompson counts on first- and second-year players to play like veterans. It's part of his draft and develop philosophy. But those players betrayed him in this game. Start with Davis's muffed punt. Oh, that was horrible.
Yeah.
And Fackrell's penalty, which was not really a penalty. Titans tight end Delonte Walker used safety Kentrell Bryce in the open field, busting tackles for big first downs. First-round pick Kenny Clark barely sniffed the football, finishing with just 1 tackle. Cornerback Quentin Rollins got benched, which I didn't notice, after it appeared he was at fault for giving up a 33-yard touchdown in the third quarter, in which he appeared to be playing a different coverage than everybody else. Davis also dropped a comeback route late in the game. That was terrible.
Yeah.
And rookie left tackle Jason Spriggs, who looks like he just got back from a visit to a fat farm. I mean, the guy is withering away to nothing. Anyway, Silverstein says that he was partly responsible, he being Jason Spriggs, not Silverstein, responsible for a sack in the fourth quarter. It wasn't the rookies' fault the Packers lost, but they sure could have helped the team more than they did. So there you have it. Packers rely on a lot of young players, and those guys just did not step up and make a difference pretty much any place.
Yeah, I mean, you think what Ted Thompson did is it's not the starters. I mean, the starters, you have a few first-year players that might be starting. They have middle linebacker Martinez is starting, right. But for the most part, they're fine. But you have to expect there's going to be injuries during the season, and your second and third level on our team consistently are rookies or second-year players. So if they came out now and said, listen, we would play better, it's just that we're really injured, I thought that's sort of like me if I played basketball and I never practiced my free throws, and then we lost because I missed my free throws and said, well, what do you expect? I'm not very good at free throws. You can't say that. You can't use that as an excuse because that is your strategy. That is, you have to say we're not very good because our strategy that we use is let us down or is not working. And the problem I have, whether it's Ted Thompson and his philosophy or McCarthy and his philosophy, is that they're not able to adjust at all. They're like a super tanker trying to change. Another thing I saw on Twitter tonight was articles about the stubbornness of the Packers to try and run the ball.
I saw that too, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember thinking it early that they ran Starks early. I don't remember him looking terrible. I think the first...
No, he actually had some good numbers for a change.
I think what his average is what? Let's look
It was over 4 yards a carry, I think.
Yeah, and a lot of that is, I think it's smart, which they did later, is that you do draw plays to him. You don't just kind of line up and smash guys in the mouth and try and grind out, a bunch of yards. But they did at the beginning of the game. The first 2 plays of the game were running plays, but they got 2 or 3 yards.
They got 6 yards on those 2 running plays.
Okay.
It set up a 3rd and 4, and they had a man open. Roger just missed him.
Well, but here's the thing, Chris, is I feel like this offense can't rely on 3rd and short and get the first down and reset the chains. I think when it's 2nd and 7, they need 2 chances on the passing game to get a first down. They can't afford to run, get it halfway, and then rely on 3rd down to get the rest of the way, because that's what happened. They ended up throwing to the dirt. You end up having to punt. And, the running game's not going to get you a first down on 2nd and 7. It's going to give you a couple yards. And then all the pressure is on 3rd down. And this team is playing poorly. I'm telling you, Chris, as bad as the defense plays, special teams, defense, everything keys off of how the offense plays, how Aaron Rodgers plays.
Sure.
And that part is actually not that injured until after today. Now.
Well, they lost 2 linemen, and that was huge. They lost their best lineman in Lang, and he was in a walking boot, I guess. And then Bakhtiari went down, and he didn't appear to be as seriously injured. But of course, tomorrow we'll hear about his ACL injury.
Right.
And after they've given him the big contract too. Yeah,
he's fine. Then you find out his knee is lodged into his chest somehow.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I will agree with you on. I do think, and I've said this on the podcast. I said it in previous years, and I'll say it in future years. As long as they have Aaron Rodgers, they got to pass the ball. And this whole detour with trying to force the running game and feed the running game. It was Ryan Wood that wrote the article that you were talking about on PackersNews.com. And I don't know necessarily if they forced the running game and were stubborn, because they only ran the ball 10 times the whole game.
That's right.
And they had some success when they did try to run it. But the point is that I just think they should be passing more the way they're configured right now, 4 and 5 receiver sets and guys in motion. What this reminds me of? It's sort of the inverse of the old Lombardi era, where they were going to pound the ball. People knew what they were going to do. They ran the power sweep. That's just what they did. Well, this is the opposite. The Packers are a passing team. I mean, let's own that. And let's throw the ball, and let's go with that short rhythm game. And this is what Ryan Wood was talking about, and I think what you're referring to, they need to throw the ball. Now, in the instance you're talking about, the first series, they did, despite only getting 6 yards on those 2 carries, they had the first down. They had a man wide open right at the sticks. Aaron Rodgers threw the ball in the ground. It was a piss poor throw,
Yeah.
and that's I don't think that was a case of poor strategy. That was just terrible execution.
It was, and I guess the point of the article is saying that they tried to establish the run early, and by the time they kind of
Right.
switched the strategy, they were down
It was too
14
late.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or,
And so,
or 21-0 even. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. And so they have to come out with their best foot forward right away. They can't afford to ease themselves into the game.
Right.
They're not the
Okay.
Packers of old, right? They have to.
Point taken.
Yeah.
Point taken.
So, but all this is maybe just a whole lot about nothing because this team is not very good right now. I don't know what they talked about. Or they talked last week about how quiet the team is and how there's lack of energy. I certainly sort of felt that this week. You can kind of see on the players' faces that they're not confident, that they feel lost. And wasn't it strange in an away stadium how quiet it was when the Packers did so poorly? It was like there was a hush over the stadium, and we're at the other team's stadium. It was pretty amazing that Packer fans loaded up that stadium and still chanted "Go Pack Go" regardless of the score. I thought that was pretty cool. But how did you watch this game, Chris? I guess that's a question I want to ask. I mean, when you watched it, were you
I was
angry?
I was in a drug-induced stupor.
Were you?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I wished I was in a drug-induced stupor.
Yeah, no. But
No, it was like always, when they don't play well, and I observed myself doing it this time. I didn't get angry. I got sad. It just felt so disappointing because I am accustomed to, like you, like all Packer fans, in this team playing well enough to make the postseason. They've done it 7 years in a row. There is that sense of entitlement that I now have. And when they disappoint me, I don't get angry. I feel like somebody has stolen from me, robbed something that's rightfully mine. I get down about it. Now, I used to get angry when they were lousy year after year after year. It was just it made me mad that they just could never bust through. Now it's sort of, now I'm also quite a bit older than I was then, and maybe just I've sort of changed my outlook on life, and generally I don't throw my clubs on the golf course anymore either.
Yeah.
So it may be a function of age, but I think it's also a function that I have now been accustomed to winning. I've been maybe somewhat sated, where I now get kind of sad. And I find myself the strangest thing. The Wisconsin Badgers, you and I are both Badgers fans. You're a Wisconsin guy, and so am I.
Yeah.
They won yesterday 48-3, and I was at the game, as a matter of fact.
Oh, that's fun.
Randall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Went with our old friend Bruce Matthews, not the NFL Hall of Famer, the guy from the foundation.
Okay.
Anyway, so I'm at this game, and I'm enjoying it, watching this great, this defense that puts the lights out. And usually for me, watching Saturday football was like the appetizer, the hors d'oeuvre. You bring out some cheese curds, right? It's to kind of get your appetite going, right? And that's what the Badgers were. And then the main course was on Sunday afternoon, and that's when the Packers took over, and that's what really mattered. But now I have this weird inverse kind of thing where I'm finding myself looking forward more to Saturdays and what that team is going to do, because I know their defense is good enough. They're going to be in every game. It's their offense that's the problem. Watching the Packers today, and I think the reason why it was so sad is because I have a sense of hopelessness, helplessness. That defense is pathetic. And even if your offense sucks, if you have a decent defense, you're always in the game. You always have a chance. When their defense is that bad, you just sit there and watch somebody kick in the balls repeatedly. I mean, it's a dispiriting feeling. So it isn't so much anger with me, Dave, as it is just this profound sense of sadness and disappointment.
Yeah, I guess I have watched it differently too. I think of it as, if I took a test and I thought I did great on it, and all of a sudden I get my test back and I realize that I failed it. I mean, there's an anger behind that. I must not have been able to study correctly. Something's wrong. That would bother me, right? And that's how I normally feel about Packer games. I expect them to win, and when they lose, then it's like someone robbed me of the experience of winning. I get really mad, and it just bothers me for days. This time, it's sort of like taking that test and knowing, like, I know I did poorly on this test. I'm gonna fail it. I'm gonna fail it. And when you get the test back, you're like, yep, there it is. I got that one wrong. I got that one wrong. I knew it. I didn't study. I knew I got it wrong. And that's how I watched the game today. was waiting for them to fall on their face, and as soon as it happened, I got sad because I'm watching the dismantling of what I think is, a proud franchise. The fans deserve better, all this kind of stuff. But what happened to me, it was like, yep, there it is. That's what I thought we were, and I'm seeing it played out, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. And actually, Chris, there is some satisfaction, and I think you said this in an email to somebody. There is some small satisfaction to me is that the worse they play, the more likely this very slow-moving franchise is to take a step of change. I think it needs to change. I think something needs to go. Even when they won, I've never been on Ted Thompson's side.
Right.
I've kind of been on McCarthy. I feel like, I guess I can appreciate his organizational skills, the plain Pittsburgh talk, and and maybe behind the scenes he's able to do some things. And I mean, he and Rodgers have a good relationship. But now it feels like the whole thing is kind of broken. But at the same time, we are fan owned. We've got an executive committee that probably that's about as teethless as any committee that's out there. They're just probably happy to be invited to the games every week when there's a home game. There's a president, as you say, that's interested more about what they're selling, how much money they're making. And you have a general manager who all he cares is about is drafting and developing. So they're so sleepy and slow, it needs to kind of really fall apart for someone to wake up and notice. And that's how I watched it today, which is sad. But did you feel that at all?
Oh, I mean, I definitely felt the sadness, but and I think for some of the reasons that you mentioned, the fact that they, the structure, the leadership structure that they have, it takes something pretty catastrophic to result in action, especially after the run that they've had the last 7 seasons. And so I think what kind of my gut is telling me right now, and I don't think it's the nachos either. I think what my gut's saying is that this season is, I mentioned last week, I think this will be a playoff-less season. And it doesn't matter if you miss it by a game or if you go 4-12, you miss the playoffs. I think that starts the clock running, not just on McCarthy, but probably on the entire regime, because as our friend Mike mentioned on Twitter after the game, it's a package deal. I mean, those two guys are, for better or worse, they're linked together. And I don't think that Ted pulls the trigger on Mike. I think they wind up going together. So that's why I think it's probably going to take not just missing the playoffs this season, which seems like it's going to work out that way. I think it's going to be they'll get a mulligan. And next season, you talk about the hot seat. It's a hot seat not just for Mike, but probably for Mike and Ted, and it will be positioned as being, Ted's going to retire. And so we want to give Elliott Wolf a chance to bring in his own coach. It'd be something like that. But I just don't see this playoff-less season, should it come to that, being what brings the thing down. It's going to take a second season like that, a second season of significant seconds. Well, no, they made the postseason and they, brought the division playoff game right down to overtime. I mean, that was a highly competitive team that did well last season. They, despite their struggles, they made it to the second round of the playoffs and probably should have made it to the NFC Championship game. So that wasn't like some disastrous, backing in like they did in 2013 with a 8-7-1 team. It wasn't like that. This team, though, I think has the potential to be, 7-9, maybe 8-8 if they get lucky. So that's not good. But I think that the following season is going to be the one that's going to tell the tale of Ted Thompson and Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think it's a right thing to have happen. But I think just by the structure of the organization, I think they're not going to make any sudden moves. I think they can fall back on this injury story, which, they are really unfortunate with the injuries. I'll give them that. But I'm just looking at this board of directors list. Do you know how many board of directors they have?
Yeah, I know I think there's 47 on the directors, and the executive committee is it 15 or something like that?
Well, no, it looks like the executive committee has 7, including Mark Murphy. And one of them is Tom Olson. I didn't know our buddy Tom Olson is on the.
No, it's not that Tom
Oh,
Olson,
no,
but
okay.
I do know Tom Olson. He's a graduate of the UW Law School and a terrific guy. I will say that. And I also know Mr. Bergstrom too. He's a very good friend of the place where I currently work, and he is a very nice man also.
Well, can you talk to him? And
I have talked to him.
will you?
We had lunch a couple of weeks ago, and he was wearing the Super Bowl ring, and he is about the biggest booster you can imagine. I think he might even be chairman of the board right now, right? Or is that Olenichek might be?
I have Olenchek is
Yes, Tom Olenichek. Now, his brother, of course, was a former quarterback of the UW Stevens Point Pointers, and so I know that family too.
Well,
so these people are, I got to tell you, these are really solid, great people. They really
people. No
they
doubt
are
about it.
they are salt of the earth people. They're wonderful people. They care deeply about the team, but these are not the kind of people, in my opinion, that are going to do anything rash.
No, and you wonder if they're going to go into their next meeting and pound the table and say anything other than they talk about the finances of the team and the building of the new facility and the hotel across the street and
the Titletown district.
Yeah, and I wonder if they even are allowed to even talk about the fact that they're winning or losing. I wonder if that even comes up in their meetings, because none of these people are going to stand up and pound the table and say we've got to make a change. They're just happy to be there, I'm sure. Like you said, I'm sure they're great people. These are excellent business people in the community and give back, and I'm sure they all deserve that. But if I was on that committee, I would keep my mouth shut and just not stir any waves. And there's 40 people on there. You can't
on the board of directors.
Yeah, you'd have to have a massive movement to have any influence. I mean, so this is driven by Mark Murphy, Ted Thompson, and Mike McCarthy. That's losing for them is obviously. I'm sure they're upset. I'm sure they're going back to the drawing board. But change does not happen for this organization. And I think some really hard questions have to be asked about our GM, our coach, and our quarterback. I think all those things need to be asked.
Well, but part of the problem for a while was there was too much meddling by the executive committee, and this was mainly in the 70s and 80s when Ron Wolf came in. That was not going to be the way it was going to be run. Bob Harlan didn't want it that way. Wolf wasn't going to stand for it, and so they have kind of changed the way the executive committee operates in the 25 or so years, which I would consider the third renaissance of the Green Bay Packers. I think that's right. I think you call it kind of the Third Reich, I would suppose, starting in 1992, or even tracing it to when Harlan took over as president. The executive committee just does not meddle in the football affairs. They'll let their opinion be known, but they have delegated all of that, starting with Murphy, and then Murphy has delegated the football operation to the general manager. That's how this operation runs. They all value stability. I think this has been mentioned by a lot of the writers who covered the team, but anyone who's followed this team knows how much they cherish the tradition of the Green Bay Packers, the impression, the image of the Green Bay Packers, the stability of the franchise, which is why they're so focused on the money, because the money allows them to keep the team, to keep it strong. Otherwise, the thing would have withered up and blown away years ago. And that's really where the big part of the focus of the executive committee is. That these are not knee-jerk kind of people. They take losing hard, believe me.
Oh, I'm sure.
When I have talked to these people about this, I mean, they take it hard, but they do not see it as their role to meddle in the football operation. That's just not the way they see their mission.
Yeah, I'm actually reading Gunslinger, the book on Brett Favre.
Oh, yes. And who's the author of that? Jeff
Pearlman, yeah.
Right, and he's been interviewed widely on podcasts, and it sounds like an intriguing, fascinating book.
Yeah, but what's funny is he mentions about 3 or 4 other books. There's an autobiography that Favre did, and then there are a few other biographies. So this is not the first biography for Favre, which
really
is
I
pretty.
didn't know that. Okay.
He refers to it. There's a couple of stories about Favre where they talk about every book tells like his accident that he had his senior year.
Oh yeah, right.
They tell that story a little bit different. But in the book, I mean, it's pretty fun because by the time he gets to Green Bay, now I can track the history, right? I remember that game. I remember, those plays and everything. But they talk about Green Bay before Ron Wolf got there. And you mind if I just let me read you just a portion here?
I was going to ask you if you might read that.
I might. Here, pull up a chair, Chris. While
okay, let me get comfortable. All right.
Put your head on a pillow there.
Okay.
All right. You comfy?
Oh, I feel good, Dave.
Yeah. All right. It says, so this is from Gunslinger Jeff Pearlman's book. I don't know. Do I need a trademark or? Well, I attribute to his book.
Just saying you gave the name of the book and the author. That's probably good.
He probably likes that. Yeah. Unlike the other 27 franchises, all of which feature an owner or owners who pay the bills and a general manager in charge of personnel decisions, the Packers, the league's lone publicly owned team, was run by a 45-member board of directors and a 7-man executive committee charged with providing input on all organizational moves, like you said. There was a president and a general manager, but neither position came with autonomy. As a result, the Packers could not make decisions, or at least good decisions. In 1979, Red Cochran, one of the team's scouts, repeatedly begged the Packers to draft a quarterback he'd watched and loved. Finally, with the 82nd pick, the San Francisco 49ers grabbed
Joe Montana.
Joe Montana.
Yep, that's right.
But, so, yes, I think you're right. They no longer meddle, which is great for stability. But when change is required, you're too far down that spectrum. I mean, I'm sure stability long-term is better. And I'm in an industry where, every time I have a bad year, I don't want to be fired either. But I think people can see, I mean, this is from podcasters, fans, the newspaper writers, people from ESPN. I think people are starting to see, and we see in other walks of life, when a message starts to get old and stale and you're no longer able to lead. And I think you can see when that happens. Obviously, we're not there and can't see the day-to-day stuff. But it certainly feels like that's happening. I think change is required, and I think you're right. It's going to take much longer than we would like to get that change to occur. So all these emails about firing anybody, I think is moot, because I don't think they're going to do anything for nothing this year, anything at the end of this year, and we'd be lucky if they do something next year.
Now, is one thing I want to mention. I heard it this week. I forget who made this point. But it made a lot of sense. In fact, I think it might have been somebody on the Fan in Milwaukee. It may have even been Steve Pfeiffer, Sparky. He was talking to somebody about this question of the message getting stale. And I've heard that, and I thought, well, there may be something to that, until he pointed out, they are such a young team that has so many roster changes year to year. The message isn't really getting stale because most of those guys aren't around for very long. Yeah, I mean, it's Rodgers has been there. Starks? Who else has been there? I mean, they don't have a lot of Jordy Nelson. I mean, Matthews, they don't have a lot of Matthews. You have a handful of guys who you could say the message is getting stale, but the vast majority of the team, probably 90% of the players, have been there 3 years or less. We'd have to take a look at that. But it's a draft and develop team, and they move people out of there pretty quickly. So I don't know if it's the message so much getting stale, and I don't even think that's even an issue. To me, Dave, and this goes back to when we started this podcast in 2005, and we were talking about the previous coach, about Mike Sherman. And I think what happens, not so much that there's a message that gets stale, because, again, it's new players all the time. What I think it is, when you start to lose or things start to go bad, it's hard to recapture the good times because there's a stench kind of lingering in the air, like a particularly bad fart, okay? That sort of lingers in the room, okay?
That's also mentioned a lot in this book, Gunslinger.
I understand he had some digestive problems after that, getting a lot of 30 inches of his intestine removed. And,
apparently his gas was legendary. Yes,
yeah. And I think we have some legendary gas right now with the 4 losses in 5 games. And the thing is, you got to have like one of those big ass fans to blow that stench out of there. And I don't know that it ever kind of leaves the upholstery.
Yeah.
Once things start going bad, it's like the episode of Seinfeld with the stink in the car.
Yeah, right.
You just can't get rid of it. And I think more than any kind of messaging, once things go bad and they get off the rails, and this happened to Mike Sherman too, it's really, really tough to get it back. And with Sherman, I think it was the 4th and 26 game. You remember the next year they came out, they started out 1-4. He gave the inspirational talk that night in Detroit, and they won, and they went on a great end of the season run, and they wound up finishing 10-6. They made the playoffs and exited quickly, and then in 2005 it all went to hell. Well, in 2014, Packers lose the NFC Championship game in a game that's probably worse than that 4th and 26 game, the way that ended.
Because there were like 10 plays. Yeah,
right.
10,
right.
4th to 26, yeah.
And they came out the next year, they came out well, 6-0. But then they only wound up winning 10 games last year, right? Or was 11 games last year. They were dramatically worse after their hot start. And it hasn't changed. And I don't want to believe this, but I'm wondering if there isn't still the hangover. The stench is still kind of hanging from that collapse against Seattle. And I'm not sure you're going to be able to really cleanse the palate without changing the people. And it isn't so much messaging, it's just kind of the mojo that goes along with these kind of, once things go off the track, you can't really ever get them fully back on. So you have to change it up. Now, I really am hoping, Dave, that I'm going to be proven wrong, that they're going to get this, they're going to get some players back, they're going to play well, and they're going to go on their merry way. But it just seems that since that Seattle game, despite the 6-0 start last year, things just aren't right, and I don't know that they will be until they kind of reset or recalibrate the engines, which I think we probably have to do with the podcast as well right now.
Yeah, that's a good segue to taking a break. Let's do that.
Well, as we do, longtime listeners of this podcast will know that there are limitations to our technology, and it does require us to take just the tiniest of breaks, which for us last about 45 minutes. We smoke a couple of doobies, and we get really relaxed for the second part of the show. But for you, it'll be just moments. So we're going to talk more about the Packers game. We'll have betting lines. We have some correspondence to get through, pop culture. We'll have all of that on the other side right after we take a break. It's Chris and Dave with Packers Therapy, second part. I have a feeling, Dave, this might be a longer podcast today. I just got this feeling. Anyway, we are still talking about the Packers' Titan-ick loss in Tennessee. Packers now falling below 500, 4-5, for the first time this late in the season with a healthy Aaron Rodgers since his first season as starter in 2008. Now, I think the turning point of the game came fairly early on when – well, actually, I thought that was great. The opening kickoff I thought was a really good job by Joe Thomas to be able to, because usually, guys are surprised. Right. Yeah. I think they did a great job, but then they screwed it up. They had great field position, and they went 3 and out. But it was the punt that Davis fumbled. I thought that was absolutely huge. And this is the way that Tom Silverstein talked about it. Now, Davis fumbled after a really nice defensive stop. I mean, the defense finally, got him to turn it over on downs, and then they give it back right away with that fumble. So this is what Silverstein says. The Packers finally got a stop in the second quarter and were able to get the ball back with 2.5 minutes left with a chance to make Tennessee's 28-10 lead more manageable heading into the second half. But on the ensuing punt, rookie Trevor Davis misjudged the ball and had to run up for a fair catch. He reached low for it and had it in his hands for a second before juggling it. He was going to fumble, but replay showed that the Titans' Bo Brinkley, great name by the way, made contact with Davis before the ball hit the ground. Now, I did not notice that, okay? So Brinkley makes contact with Davis before the ball hits the ground. Returners are allowed as much room as they need to catch a ball as long as they've signaled for a fair catch. So a penalty should have been called, but it didn't erase the fact that Davis put the ball on the ground in a clutch situation, and fellow rookie Kyler Fackrell was flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct for pulling players off the pile. That, I thought, was one of a series of piss-poor calls by the NFL's most piss-poor referee, Jeff Triplette. Yeah. He wasn't pulling guys off the pile. That was just ludicrous.
Well,
anyway.
He was. I'll say this. I don't think he was literally pulling guys off the pile, but he wasn't just like, he was walking away from the play and just kept bumping into guys. And it's kind of like that A.J. Hawk where when you get up, you sort of slam a guy's head to the ground. You're like, what? I was just getting up. I mean, he was messing around. I mean, he was doing something. But
they were hair trigger on calling penalties, and we traditionally don't bitch about referees on this podcast, but that was a horrible set of on both sides. I mean, the guy they ejected for the Titans, I thought that was
ridiculous too. Yeah,
that was absolutely. And this is there have been 11 ejections in the NFL this season, 6 by this crew, and that tells you that they got a problem. I mean, Jeff Triplette and his gang are absolutely the worst, and they had a series. I mean, the taunting call too on Daniels. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, it wasn't on the field, but it wasn't like he was Terry Tate off his linebacker, and the guy got up and stood over the guy and fool, woo! He didn't do any of that stuff. He's jawing. They jaw all the time on the field in the NFL. What is this? The first game these guys have refereed? I mean, they were looking for stuff, and they called so many personal fouls, several unsportsmanlike conducts. You just don't see that. I know they nailed the guy who laid down in the end zone too. Yeah, I guess that wasn't so cool, but really, you gotta flag that. They were calling penalties, Dave, on holding away from the ball.
Yeah,
and I mean, this is a group that I think they're getting paid by the penalty. It was absolutely terrible. But that doesn't excuse the fact that Davis didn't secure the ball on this particular play. But I thought that was huge. I mean, the Packers get a stop, and they could have made it a 28-17 game, and then you can, maybe you have a chance at that point. But instead, it winds up setting up the Titans for another score, and they get a 25-point lead. And at that point, I think effectively the game was over.
That's interesting to say that's the turning point because it was 28-10 at that point, but it was early.
Well, it was second quarter, and and you're moving the ball on offense. You get the ball, and even if you don't score a touchdown, you don't set the other team up for a touchdown on their side. That was deep in your own territory. So even if you keep the score the same, you still have a chance. But when you go down by 25. That was pretty much the end of it.
Well, that was pretty well, and we never got to 28. So I mean, even they got an extra touchdown out of that. We never actually caught up to 28. Maybe that would have made a difference if we would have got the ball and had that drive. But to me, I knew the game was in trouble when on the first series when Rodgers missed that third down play. It got Cobb is wide open and he misses him, and I feel like whatever is ailing this team. It's still there. It's a problem. But I think the turning point, to me, I mean, it has to be on the third time the Packers have the ball, they go 3-and-out, punt, and they allow another touchdown. Now it's 21-0. I mean, that's where I think it's over at that point. Now, could they amount at this? My mind, I was trying to kind of picture this huge comeback that would happen in the second half, where the defense would stop them. Hope with Tennessee kind of goes conservative. They run the ball more. We stop them. And our offense opens up. Well, the offense opened up a little bit. In fact, I was amazed at one point our offense had more yards than Tennessee did, which I thought is crazy. But at one point we did because we keep kicking field goals, and they kept scoring touchdowns. But so the offense did kind of come back. But I don't know. To say that late in the game was the turnaround, it was a bad play on top of many bad plays. And I think this team is in the losing mindset. I think you've convinced me in saying that it's not a message problem. It's not that McCarthy's message is stale, but I think he's lost this team in believing they can win. And I feel like when you have that, you talk about mojo or that stink that's in the curtains or whatever it was that you talk. It's just some teams expect to win and some teams I think expect to lose. And this team is a team that expects to lose. And one of the things that happens is when you have that sort of theme on your team is your rookies drop balls, they miss tackles, they make penalties. Like the young guys don't know how to sort it out. Where now I don't watch New England, and so me assuming every rookie on New England is good, but I think on teams that expect to win, like somehow those rookies, you don't see them making mistakes. They make like surprise plays, and like it just seems to fall into your favor more often than not. And that's what the Packers are. It's written all over Rodgers' face. It's written on Jordy Nelson's face and Cobb's. I mean, you could see that sideline just shell-shocked, and they have the appearance of a loser of a team right now. And I don't know how you bring it back. I just don't know if McCarthy's the kind of guy that can bring a team out of its funk. He's an organization guy, and I don't think you can organization a team out of a losing mindset. I think you got to get someone who's kind of a rah-rah guy to get that, to believe in yourself. And that's why I think it's going to be tough for the Packers to kind of come out of it. And I'm thinking now, they're 4-5, and someone I saw had written, how are they going to get to 5 wins? When you look at their schedule, who can they beat for the rest of the season? And after what I watched today, I bet you go through that schedule.
It's tough. It's
going to be hard to say. I mean, they play at Washington. I don't think Washington's great. But I think Washington's probably better.
They beat the Vikings today, though.
Yeah, at home, yeah. And I thought Tennessee was pretty bad. I mean, the Bears, I guess we got them coming up, but I mean, we're playing really bad right now. So I don't know.
I mean, there's, I think what you were getting at, if you don't mind me trying to, distill this down.
Interpret my nonsense.
Yes. This is the Dave translator here. I think what you're saying is it's about confidence, and teams need, or any organization needs confidence in its leadership. Heck, in the British government, what brings a government down is a vote of no confidence, right? That's when people go to the polls in their parliamentary system. It's all about belief. It's about hope. We had a friend named Mark in Madison who talked about that all the time. And it's a matter of getting people to believe, to have hope and have confidence. And I know you've been known to dabble in the stock market a little bit with your job. Yeah. And so that when it comes to investors, it's a sense of confidence. They don't have confidence, they sell. If they have confidence, they, feeling optimistic, they're going to buy. Right now, I think the Packers have a crisis of confidence right now. And what to me, it isn't rah-rah that brings up your confidence. What brings up your confidence is the cliche of stacking successes. And they have just not had any successes to stack. And when they get one, then the confidence will come if you can put on top, on top, on top. It doesn't have to be big things. They can be small things, but you got to have them in a consistent series. And I think every leader who's ever been in charge of a group of people, of a team, of an organization, knows this, that your team, in order to remain motivated, they have to have successes. Not all the time, but you got to have more wins than losses to get people to believe and not to lose faith. And when people lose faith, that's, I think, when you see what the Packers are experiencing right now. And I don't think McCarthy can give them faith by simply, talking positive. I think what he has to do is show them a game plan and a way forward that they are going to believe in and believe it gives them a chance of winning. And then they have to see success. Everyone wants to believe, but you don't really believe until you can see something actually happening. It doesn't have to be the whole thing. It has to be enough to say, hey, maybe we can do this. And that's going to be the challenge right now. If it was just about giving a Gipper speech, anybody can pull that off.
No, I guess I'm not saying what we need is a great speech and all will be well. But I disagree with you to a degree. I mean, we both are, in charge of people, and and we've both coached. And so this isn't completely foreign to me. if I have a group of people, and I've coached quite a bit, and I can tell when I have a team that just feels like they're going to win. I have coached teams that I can just see it in their eyes. They just expect to lose. When they miss their serve or throw a ball, it's like you could just see it in their face. Like I knew I was going to do that. Yeah, obviously, if you start winning, it can change your mindset. But to go from losing to winning, that's a huge barrier to break. And you can't just wait until you win to get that mindset change. I think you've got to sometimes manufacture a belief that you can win before you start stacking those successes. I mean, you're talking going from losing to stacking successes is, I think, losing a lot of steps. And now McCarthy, if he goes in and says, "Here's the game plan, men, this is how we're going to win. This is how we're going to beat the Redskins. You got to believe with me." Well, that to me is the inspiration. If he can show a game plan that they can buy and believe in and go out and push it, then yeah, great. That's what I'm talking about. It doesn't have to be movie worthy, like some of those football movies where they have those great speeches in the locker room. But I just don't see McCarthy able to do that. I think we do what we do. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. If you execute, it'll work. Just trust me. And when it keeps not working, I thought this team gave up really early in this game, and it was more the same. I mean, the crisis mode was last week, and for them to come out and do the same crap this week makes me think he doesn't have it in him. He can't inspire these people. He's just doing what he does. And I didn't hear the post game interviews, but the sense I got from other people that heard it is that the message is we'll go back to the practice field. We'll keep lining up with what we do. If guys execute what we have drawn on the board, we'll start to win and we'll get things fixed. Chris, I think if that keeps going, this team wins maybe 6-7 games at the most, and it's a bad season.
I don't think we should confuse the public utterances, though, on what is going to go on in the meeting rooms and when they address the team in the auditorium.
That's fair.
Tomorrow. I mean, it's
all we have to go on, though.
Right, but it's next to worthless, though, and I think that the real stuff that goes on when they break down by positional groups and all that other stuff, and I know they do other kinds of more old school messaging and in the materials they give them and all that other kind of stuff. But we never know any of that stuff.
Of course. But after the Seattle loss, a few guys came out and said that they were disappointed with how the play calling went. We went conservative, and they were upset about that, right? And so it's so rare that they come out in the public and say what they really feel or what's going on behind the scenes that when it cracks a little bit, it mismeans something. And that happened in 2014. It was kind of a break a little bit between the quarterback and the coach. Like you could sense it a little bit. And
they were buddies today, though. I mean, they were yucking it up on the sidelines there.
Oh, I didn't see. Well, I saw them talking. Were they yucking it up? At what point were they yucking it up?
Well, McCarthy's smiling was after one of the touchdowns. He's smiling, and I don't know if they fist bumped or what, but they were, they were like, oh, wow, look at that, I don't know what exactly happened. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Rodgers farted and it smelled like Favre, and then made them all nostalgic for days gone by. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But to me, a bigger question. We can talk about. We'll be talking a lot about McCarthy, obviously, in future podcasts. But how can I'm at a loss here, and I don't expect you necessarily to have an answer for this. But
I'll have an answer.
Well, I'm sure you have thoughts anyway about this. And I'm thinking back again to the third offensive play that the Packers had. It was 3rd down and 4, and Aaron Rodgers has got Randall Cobb, right, breaking across the middle, past the first down marker. It's hard to know what he was seeing or what his sensory input was. But on television, it looked like the easiest pass ever. It was, maybe from where he was standing, maybe 10 yards, and he didn't seem to have a ton of pressure.
No.
I don't know. Maybe there were hands someplace you couldn't tell. Maybe there was somebody at his feet. Whatever it was, how do you miss that pass? How do you not connect on that pass? It just, to me, it was totally mystifying. And I know this has been happening on other plays, and there's other things that happen in this game. But that one really stood out to me because it looked just as basic can be, and it reminded me that this has been going on now for more than a year. I mean, how does this happen? What's going on in his head? Why can he not connect on this basic pass? Now, later on in the game, I mean, the guy's rolling out and he's throwing sidearm and he's, he made a lot of great passes today, but he's missing ones like that at critical times. How does that happen?
Well, and especially at the beginning of the game. And I wonder, put yourself in the mind of like, Clinton Dix. You're on the sideline and it's third down and he misses an easy pass. Do you think what's going on with this team is someone like or Morgan Burnett sits there and goes like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And so now when you go on defense, you're not, plus one in your mind, you're minus one. You're on your heels. Because your quarterback who you rely on, your leader, just crapped the bed again. And so something is definitely broken on this team, and we're all kind of searching for what it is. And in reading the Favre biography, I feel like someday we'll be reading the Aaron Rodgers biography and reading like, oh, that's what's happened. When Favre came out and, played against Chicago and threw 5 touchdowns on a bad leg, and we're all thinking
ankle, right? Yeah.
Or ankle, yeah. And we're all thinking, great. Well, it's because he was so pumped up with drugs.
Yeah.
And, when he was so reckless, and we're thinking like, why does he throw so many interceptions? Well, the guy was reckless in his whole life, and the coaching staff was kind of beside themselves. Like, what do we do? Do we go with Mark Brunell, or do we stay with Favre, even though he's a mess on the field and he's a mess in his personal life? Well, we're in the fog right now of we have no idea. We just see the result, and something's broken. And it could be – it's something. We're going to read it in a biography someday. And I wonder if it is that people have lost confidence in Rodgers, or it's something related to our quarterback. I feel like I just don't know what it is. But missing that pass, you're right. Every quarterback in the league, I'm watching Russell Wilson, Tom Brady. I mean, they're making passes, great passes to the sideline where guys have to, time it just perfectly. This was just a pass, a pitch and catch to the guy wide open 5 yards down the field, and he missed it. Something is definitely wrong with this team, and it's too bad we have a podcast and can't do investigative reporting. We just talk about what we see on TV, but I know something's wrong.
Well, what's really frustrating, though, is that, Rodgers had a lot of passes today. He was 31 of 51. He made some incredible throws. So why can you make some of these throws on the run, on the move, even that Hail Mary that unfortunately was an interception for him at the end of the half? I mean, the guy threw that thing a mile. I mean,
he can throw.
Yeah, his arm is obviously fine. He ran for a 20-yard touchdown. I mean, the guy's got good mobility, got good speed. It's so mystifying to me. And it's not like this has been his whole career. I mean, with Favre, he was reckless his whole career. Part of what made him great was part of what, made him frustrating for fans. But he was consistent, Rodgers, it's just been in this past, calendar year that suddenly his accuracy is gone. And now maybe it's the gross muscle skills are still terrific, still strong, but it's the fine muscle skills that are not quite there. Maybe this is part of the, degradation of age. He turns 33 next month. Not an old man by anyone's standards, but maybe that little bit of decline, his nerve perhaps in the pocket. He may be seeing people a fraction of a second later, and so he's not able to confidently get the throw where it needs to be. It's really unclear to me why you would have this kind of decline when the guy has been so great, and you still see those signs of greatness. You just don't see it as consistently, or maybe we've just become so accustomed to otherworldly play. I mean, I remember on this podcast, Dave, us talking about, another passer rating game of over 100 for Aaron Rodgers. That's 7 games in a row, stuff like that. And now, when the guy doesn't have that kind of game, it's like, what the hell is wrong with him? So maybe the problem is as much us as it is him, but that one throw in particular, which would have been so nice to have after the getting the onside kick, and that could have got the game off to a great start, and it was just deflating. And I wonder again, because it was deflating, is that part of the confidence? That little success you needed, that you can put something in place. You had the success of getting the onside kick. Now you need to build on it, and they failed to build on it. And the game went downhill from there.
Well, you think of all the great quarterbacks, Elway, Favre, every single one. As they got older, the ability to have a running game helped them. I think in Favre and Elway in particular, I think Elway won the Super Bowl when he finally had a great running game. Now, he was still very effective, but he was declining, and then when he got a running game, and then he could do his thing, but it was not 80%, it was 50%, and the running game was 50%. Well, then that may be where Rodgers is right now. He needs a running game to be effective in the rest of the game, both from a ability to play and a confidence level. And what did the Packers do going into the season? They came in with 2 running backs, one that is chronically overweight, which often leads to injuries, and one who is pretty ineffective, average at best. These are things that Ted Thompson needs to stand up and be accountable for too. I think Rodgers played a poor game early this game. There were not just that throw. There were a bunch of throws early where it's like, what is going on? He's not hitting anybody. And then he sort of turned it on somewhere in the second quarter on.
Well, he had like 13 completions in a row, something like that.
But before that, he was missing guys down the field. He had a couple bad throws early that I was just like, wow, this game is going off the hinges really fast. But does Ted Thompson take any accountability for having a super young team, no running backs? I don't blame him for not getting a great running back, in the middle of the season. But that's not the time you do it. You can't. At this point, it's too late. You're not going to find like a Howard Green off the trash pile of someone else that comes in and plays well for the half a season. That happens only once in a while. So not only is he maybe declining, his confidence is down, but he's getting no support. And now he's going to have an offensive line that's not going to give him any time. This is going to be potentially pretty ugly. That's not good therapy, Chris, but.
Well, I want to tell you about something else that I thought was exceptionally ugly. Did you get a load of how Moose Johnson was dressed?
No, I didn't.
Oh my God. Okay, this is a guy. Now I'm sure this was probably the height of fashion. I'm sure Clinton from What Not to Wear was all in approval. Dude is rocking a check shirt with a spread collar. He's got a vest on, so it's a 3-piece suit, and then he's got a tie clasp, tie clip. When's the last time you saw like an adult non-hipster, rocking a tie clip,
Yeah.
This was an offense. Now, I'm sure probably people are going to send me pictures from Gentleman's Quarterly. There's going to be the fashion guys. Oh yeah, Moose is making it happen. Now, I think he's good as in terms of an analyst and broadcaster.
Yeah,
I like listening to him.
I do.
A good voice. He's a smart guy. But really, check yourself. Why don't you just go with a white shirt, go with a regular tie, skip the vest, and for God's sake, the tie clip? Come on, man.
Chris,
Jeez.
We are old men. Fashion is not our thing. We barely know what we're talking about. Talking about the Packers, which we watch day in day out. We know nothing about fashion. White shirt, and navy blue suit or whatever. That's not. We don't know better. I can barely wear a pastel shirt and feel comfortable. So I think we're getting way out of our league in terms of what we're talking about in fashion.
Well, this guy took a lot of hits to the head.
That's true.
He was the fullback. He was the blocking back for Emmitt Smith.
Do you think he picks out his clothes? I'm sure.
I think he dresses in the dark based on what I saw today.
I think Fox has people who dress him up, and I'm sure that's the fashion. We just don't know. We're about 5 years behind. It
was a crime against humanity. I am going to call The Hague, and we are going to convene a body who is going to take action on this. I mean, even, poor Troy Aikman, who, 9 concussions. At least this guy dresses like an adult. Come on.
All right.
Come on.
Fair enough. Well, who's the guy for that used to be on CNN? Craig, who had all the loud shirts and loud suits and stuff. He started that, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's, again, I probably, practicing medicine here without a license, but geez, come on, man.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, unless they want to make a name for themselves. That's what
I guess so. Well, okay. We probably should get along to the betting line, unless you have more things on this game that you want to. I mean, we could talk about the Richard Rodgers fourth down drop, which was not a beautiful melody, I might add. It's too bad they don't have Jared Cook around. Yeah. And Rodgers usually can catch the ball, but I mean, it's fourth down, and you've got to make that play. I mean, that was a huge drop as they're struggling to kind of stay in the game or get back in the game. He's open, the pass is, where it needs to be, and the guy can't corral it. I mean, There's just little mistakes like that take on a whole different life when you're struggling.
Well, it's a sign of a bunch of losers. Yeah, is really what it is.
And that's kind of what they are now. But a guy who wasn't a loser today, definitely Adams, I thought, really stepped up. Davante Adams with really a wonderful game. And now he's starting to look like the guy that I hoped that he would be. I was really glad to see him show up and play so well.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, it's like you talk about the Titanic. That's like saying the orchestra played beautifully on the Titanic. I mean, he had a good game.
156 yards. Yeah, he had 26. He had a 26-yard average. I thought, Davante Adams looked like a man today. I mean, 156 yards receiving, and then you're right. Jordy had 12 catches, 126 yards. His was only 10.5, per catch. Adams with that beautiful catch along the left sideline. They're definitely in the big sense. We've talked for the last 45 minutes about the problems, but there were some good things today, and I think Adams and even Nelson, were among the good things today. We should, I think, be pleased with that. I mean, there wasn't a lot else that you could really point at and say, hey, that's great. But those guys, and especially Adams, that bodes well for the future for them.
Yeah, I suppose that's in terms of what are things to be confident or be hopeful for. If he can be a very solid number 2, I think it'd be really a stretch to say he could be a number 1. But the better he plays, and I thought Jordy had a very excellent workman. I mean, he had 18 targets to Jordy Nelson. Man, he gets all the looks from Rodgers. I thought there were a couple, one in the end zone that I thought, I don't know who else was open or who else was was out for the pass, but he threw into coverage with Nelson in an end zone. So that still becomes a problem. He feels like he just trusts Nelson almost exclusively, but I don't know.
Well,
18 targets, that's really high.
Well, Adams also did drop one ball in the end zone, went through his hands, not so good. I mean, he had, other catches in which he looked terrific, with his 6 receptions that he had. But there should have been a 7th, and it should have been for a touchdown. So even though I think he had a terrific game, maybe the best one of his career even, he needed to have that touchdown reception, period.
Well, are you ready to do the betting lines here?
Let's do the betting lines, unless you want to do our correspondence first. Would you rather get to the betting lines
first?
Let's
get the betting lines out and we do correspondence last. Let's tease people out. All right. So last week we had 8 with 7.5 in there. So number 1, we had asked what Aaron Rodgers' quarterback rating was. You said 104.
Yeah, I thought, well, okay, in my defense, without that cheap interception at the end of the first half, his numbers look a lot better. He would have been pushing 90, would have been around 89. So anyway, yeah, it's still a far cry from 104.
Yeah, it's and so what is his quarterback rating? Is it 79.8 or is it 55? Right. There's 2 stats on ESPN.
His quarterback rating, the NFL quarterback rating, was 79.8.
Okay, I think it doesn't really matter on Mike's.
Well, they've got their QBR or something that they use at ESPN, and I that's not the one that the league goes by.
Yeah,
The league
yeah.
goes by the other one. Yeah.
So Mike, I think Mike used 55, but I don't know if it. Well, I don't know if it affects the score. It might affect the score, but we're not. I'm not going to care, and I'll tell you
Well,
why.
it doesn't matter because it was under by a lot.
It was
Yeah.
under by a lot. So the unders had it. Number 2, interceptions by Green Bay. You had the line at .5. Everybody said the over. Everyone thought there was going to be an interception this week, and there was none. It was
House wins. All right. Yay,
Under.
House.
Number 3, how many rushing attempts will Green Bay have, not including Aaron Rodgers? You said 17.5. It was a
10. Yeah.
10, correct. 10 was the number. I had the under on that one, by the way. Passing yards by Mariota. You set the line at 236 yards. He had 295. I took the over. Got that one right. You might notice a theme happening here, which we'll get back to. Number 5, how many catches or rushes did Ty Montgomery have? That's something that I wanted to mention. I'm still surprised that they're not making Ty Montgomery as a running back more the focus of the offense when that worked really well against the Bears. And did they do it a couple times? I know the Bears in particular, but was there another game where he was really the focus, and I thought that was very successful.
Yeah, it seemed to me there was one other game. Was that the Colts game? Yeah, he played against the Colts, right?
He played against Colts, but that was what was the game before the Bears and the Colts? Or Atlanta? I think Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
So Atlanta, I thought he was more of a factor.
Did he sit out against Atlanta?
Oh, maybe he did sit out.
He sat out because he had his sickle cell trait.
Yeah, you're right.
He had the blood in the urine, which is never a good sign.
So maybe it's just the Bears game that has tainted my thought process here. That we should be doing a lot out of Ty Montgomery, and you set the line at 10.5. I'm looking at the lines here. It looks like
5.
He had 5.
Yep.
So the unders had it. Not great. Number 6, kickoff return average for Tennessee. You had set the line at 23. Mike has it down as 28. So the overs have it on that one. Number 7, total rushing yards by Tennessee. You set the line at 110. I did differentiate between who is the quarterback ran it all, but number 160.
Mariota, had 8 yards just.
Had a couple, but 162. So the over won that one.
Yep.
We had a 7.5 with a Packers score in the first quarter. You both said yes, and they did not. So we didn't know that.
Well, yeah. When you get the ball like they did though on the onside kick, it's really tough not even to come away with a field goal there, and they really should have scored on that.
Really did a very difficult job, and they accomplished it by not scoring in the first quarter.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the tiebreaker was the exact quarterback rating for Aaron Rodgers. So the winner this week is me with 6.
Thank God, because it is getting tougher and tougher, to clean those rooms after people use them. It's a week, people. I mean, basic cleanliness when you're in the presidential suite at the Packers Therapy Hotel and Casino. Please use some discretion.
Listen, I hope I still get the same treatment in that hotel room as everybody else. I want that room clean. I've got it by myself. I should be able to leave it, destroy it when I'm done, but I want it clean when I walk in. So which one of us is in charge of the cleaning of that room?
I think our operations chieftain is in charge, and that falls under my line of command, so I'll take care of that right after the podcast.
Because I'm leaving for the hotel right as we're done here.
Is the Packers Therapy jet warming up in the runway?
Yeah.
Even as we speak? Okay, good.
Which, I got to tell you, I hate flying, as you know. I had the worst flight a couple weeks ago. 2 flights I had back and forth to D.C. Scared the heck out of me. I just...
Oh, Dave, you love to fly because you get to get stoned on the flight.
Well,
come on.
I've been trying to get myself off it.
Lorazepam is your buddy. Come on.
Why not? All
right. Is it? No, it's Lorazepam is my co-pilot.
No, I don't want. I want my co-pilot be my co-pilot. I want
Yeah,
it to
that's
be
true.
just my friend. Yeah.
That's right. Your seatmate.
Yes. Unfortunately so. All right, you ready for betting lines for the
Oh,
Reds?
God, yes. I was born ready, Dave.
At the Redskins, correct?
Yeah, no, I guess now, with the political wind change, we can call them the Redskins again, right?
Yeah, that's right. Anything
Yeah,
goes now.
okay. I guess.
Redskins are back and our taxes are down.
Oh, yeah.
So, number one, how many running plays do you think will be to running backs this week? Not, again, to
Packer running backs or...
Packer running backs, yes.
Oh, God, boy. Yeah, I don't think they intended this week to only have 10 carries. I think the game dictated that they get away from that. And I personally would be fine if they only ran 10 times. But I really think Mike McCarthy wants to run the damn football. So I guess 17 last week. I'm going to set the line again at 17 or 17 and a half.
17 and a half again?
Right,
All right,
right.
I'm taking the
Yep.
under.
Okay.
I'm going to continue my success here. Number two, Kirk Cousins had a pretty decent game today. He beat the Vikings. How many passing yards do you think Kirk Cousins will have next week?
Now, Kirk Cousins, he owns that chain of substands, right? The Cousins, I think, where they bake their own bread and all that stuff.
It is Kirk Cousins, right? Please
I'm
tell me
pretty
it's
sure.
not. I didn't just mess that up.
No, you did, but I couldn't. I had to go with the sub sandwich
Joke.
Well, anyway,
Yeah.
okay,
All right.
that's okay.
It's hilarious.
So
It was hilarious. You nailed
yeah,
it.
thanks. Yeah. Cool story, bro. All right, so what was your question again?
So how many passing yards will Kirk Cousins have? He had 262 yards against Minnesota.
Yeah, he's a pretty good quarterback. He quarterbacked at Michigan State, and he was good there too. And I like him as a quarterback. Based on what I've seen today, I don't think Matthews is going to be back. I mean, the way they're talking about it, I think he's going to miss again this week coming up. And even if he does play, I don't think he's going to be himself. So they're going to have the same problems that they had. They had guys getting dinged up again on the defense. I think he'll probably do a little better. I'm going to set it. I'm going to set it at 282.
282. I'm taking the over.
Okay.
On that one. Penalties. I thought penalties, although as you say,
Jeff Triplette.
Triplette is a factor here.
Yeah.
How many I don't know if I have the
I think there was 12
stats for penalties here.
It was their most penalized game in a long time. And by the way, too, the penalty on Clinton Dix, that's the other one I forgot about. That was absolute bullshit. I mean, that was just terrible.
All right, Mike.
Boy.
I'm going to make Mike work for this one. How many penalties will Green Bay have this week?
Okay. Well, I can't believe I'm going to get Jeff Triplette's crew 2 weeks in a row, so it'll be more like normal. Let me set that line at 7.5.
7.5. All right. I'm going to take the over.
All right.
They're young and they're penalty prone, so I'm going with the over. Okay. Here's a math problem. If you were to take Aaron Rodgers' touchdowns and subtract his interceptions this week,
what time would they get to Chicago?
this week it would be 0. So you tell me, what's the over/under on Aaron Rodgers' touchdowns minus his interceptions next week?
I detected during the game a little bit of Brett Favre circa 2005, where there was a measure of frustration in Aaron Rodgers, where he was taking chances that he normally wouldn't take, but it's like I got to do something here because otherwise we're dead in the water. So I think he's a little more risky, a little more frustrated. But I think I'm going to say he's going to have a +1 on that.
+1. All right, I'm going to take the.
Or do I need to set that maybe at a half, because otherwise it's so
Yeah.
let me set that at 0.5 will be the
0.5.
yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll take the over on that one. I'll take the over.
Okay. So okay, when you say the over though, you mean you think that it'll be more touchdowns than interceptions?
Yes, he'll have if he has 2 touchdowns and 1 interception, then that is a 1. That is the over of a 0.5.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Number 5, combined reception yards. I don't think they'll get a handoff. Well, Adams can get a handoff. Combined receiving yards for Adams and Nelson together, which today would have been
that's 282.
282.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Boy, well, it's clear that those are his two favorite guys, and why not? I mean, they're biggish targets, outside guys. I don't think they go 282 though. Let me set that at between the two of them. I'm going to set it at 156.
All right. I'm going to take the under. Number 6. I was trying to think of how to phrase this question because I could go two ways with it. How many tackles will Julius Peppers have? Or, I was going to ask as a yes/no, will Brian Bulaga have more tackles than Julius Peppers again next week?
Yeah. So if Peppers is still on the team, is that correct?
I saw him get pushed around.
I'm going to
Yes.
clarify that. All right.
Literally, when they say he's on skates, I think that's what's happening out there. I think he's on the roller skates out.
He might be more effective if he took the skates off because that's got to be uncomfortable.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
You see 56 every once in a while just flash by the screen really fast, and you're like, "What was that?" And it was Julius Peppers being pushed, to the side. And I'm looking at the tackle chart, and I start with Blake Martinez at 10, and I work my way down, and I see Brian Bulaga on there. I see Dimitri Goodson. I see Mike Pennell. No Julius. But I think he had quite a few snaps, at least early when I was paying attention. So how many tackles do you think Julius will have?
Oh, man. He is a kind of a ghost of his former self. He's probably playing too much even to be effective. I think he's more effective when he plays less. With Matthews out, he's playing more, and I think the more he plays, the less effective he is.
And I would play Jaron Elliott more.
Well, he had 2 tackles for loss today, Elliott, and I thought that was solid.
Yeah, I wonder how many snaps he gets relative to Julius Peppers. That's where the coaches have to stand up and make a tough call. I'm sure Julius is a leader in the locker room, but he is not showing up on the field. I like Jaron Elliott more if Matthews can come back. But that does not change the fact that I've asked you a question. How many tackles will Julius Peppers have next week?
The tackles will include sacks, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to set the line for Peppers' tackles.
I'm going to take the under. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. I was going to set it at 2.5.
2.5. I'll take the under. Sorry, right. I jumped the gun there. Number 7. Given the Packers' ability to set the world on fire as the game starts, what do you think the Packer score will be after the first quarter? How many points do you think they will have after quarter one?
Is this combined or just Packers?
Just Packers.
They're on the road at what's that? FedEx Field? Is that what it's called?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
That's not so politically incorrect. That's all right.
No, it's not like Wigwam Stadium or some kind of oh goodness. I'm going to set the line for Packer points in the first quarter at 8.5.
8.5. All right, I'm taking the under.
All right.
So I have my between 7 and 8s, which are not numbers, they're questions. 7.5. Do you think Hundley?
Yes, he's the backup quarterback.
Hundley, thank you. Hundley, will he get a snap next week? Yes or no?
I'm gonna say no.
All right, I'm gonna say yes. I think there's a chance Rodgers gets hurt next week. 7 3/4. Another question. Do you think Matthews will play next week?
No.
You said no. I say yes. And the tiebreaker, number 8, is total number of Packer points. What do you think?
Packers just, huh?
Just Packers.
Oh, yeah. And this week against a kind of shaky Minnesota team, they gave up, 20? They lost, or the Redskins won 26-20. Was that the final?
Yeah, I was just looking that up. 26-20. That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Minnesota started 20.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put the Packers. Is this an over/under thing that we're doing?
No, you're just guessing.
Oh, okay. I think the Packers will score 23 points next week.
Oh, I said 24. I wrote it down before you said it.
Okay.
So there are your betting lines. Vote.
So if I want to play this game, Dave, how would I go about playing?
Well, first you listen to the podcast.
That's always a good idea.
You listen to it to the end. you get a pen and paper, and you listen to what I just said and what you just said.
Right.
And you take your answers, and you open up your email, and you send an email to Mike Miller at his email address, which is mitnomiller, MITNOMILLER @gmail.com. I think Mike is trying to force people to a Gmail spreadsheet of some sort, which I can never quite figure out. But if you can send it to Mike at an email, he will tabulate it as quickly as possible. I think Mike got it out today before the podcast, which is excellent. Mike is on the ball. And then we will let you know who wins next week.
Best damn intern we ever had.
It really is. He really is.
He's going to get a favorable job reference, I think, as a result of his good work.
He should. I think on a percentage basis, I'm ready to give him a raise. How about you?
You know, I'm feeling expansive today because the team's not playing well, and so definitely I'm actually thinking about doubling his salary.
Yeah, okay, so Mike, you take your base and multiply it by 2.
Times 2.
Divide it by 26 because we pay every other week.
And there's withholding. You have to account,
True.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the withholding's more than the income, so you can send your paychecks to packerstherapy@yahoo.com.
Or actually, you can just go to PayPal, as a matter of fact. We are still taking contributions from listeners, obviously the shut-ins who have plenty of time to listen to this podcast. You can go to PayPal, and you go packerstherapy@yahoo.com, and you can give us money because we have some lingering expenses from our trip to Green Bay. Hookers and blow, not cheap. Even in Green Bay, not cheap. So if you feel...
Unless you're Brett Favre, apparently.
Apparently, but he was doing better than us in terms of he was making good bank, as they say. Now, speaking of people who have been generous contributors to the PayPal account, by the way, that's PayPal and packerstherapy@yahoo.com. One of our generous contributors, Jared from Seattle, he has put forward a suggestion. We'd have to run this by Dr. Klaus. But Jared's wife is a physician. And he mentioned that our medical staff, as good as Dr. Klaus is, and he is among the best worldwide, really. The World Health Organization recognizes him as the finest podcasting team physician in the world. So there's room on his staff, and I think I'm going to put in a good word for Mrs. Dr. Jared to join our medical staff under the tutelage of Dr. Klaus. And I'm assuming that you're down with this. I mean, we can have a meeting, but I think we should make that happen for her because, for one thing, we seem to have kind of a sausage festival going on here. In terms of the people who are listening to the show, and I think we need to introduce some X chromosome here. So I am all for Mrs. Dr. Jared joining Dr. Klaus on our medical staff. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm just so if I find a lump in an unusual place, which doctor do I go to? I don't understand what's my choices.
Well, you've shaken hands with Klaus, and you know what that feels like. So
I have.
I know.
So yeah.
Right. The man he's the hands of a surgeon because
he does.
Because he is. So that kind of helps out.
The softest hands.
So welcome aboard, Mrs. Dr. Jared. We are delighted to have you. Although they're honeymooning not honeymooning. They're vacationing. They're vacationing in Hawaii. So you know what they did? We got an email from Jared this week. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Jared, Doctor, flying over. They're listening to our podcast on the plane.
On a splitter. Yes.
They are sharing headphones and listening to Packers Therapy as they're flying from Seattle to Maui.
And I think they spontaneously started making out.
I would think so.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
Well, yes, because let's face it, we're kind of the Frank Sinatra of podcasts. Not that we're drunk like Frank was and stoned, but I'm saying that our voices, I think it just excites both men and women.
The dulcet tones of Packers Therapy. Yes,
exactly. Well, the good news is we were told that our concern about Ty Montgomery and his sickle cell trait Mrs. Dr. Jared was encouraging us that he's going to be just fine with
Yeah,
that.
that's good. And
Yeah.
the more doctors that can write scripts, the better.
You did see that. Okay, good. Yeah, because we definitely need the people at Walgreens are starting to ask a lot of questions. So
Yeah, what's this Klaus signature? It's starting to get questions.
that is yeah.
Spread the risk.
And the fact that he's not licensed to practice in the U.S., I don't believe, is probably an issue as well. But we're on a budget around here, so we're glad to have you aboard, Doctor. Let me see now on the same issue with Ty Montgomery. We got a very thoughtful email, as you would expect, from a member of our legal team, Tom Freeman, who writes the excellent blog West Coast Offensive.
Wait, well, time out for a second.
Yeah,
Do you think
sure.
it says something that we have a lot of our listeners are doctors and lawyers? That's pretty amazing, right?
And Jared's an engineer. We are now linked in, as a matter of fact.
Chuck P. developed the iPhone. Yeah, we are.
That's right. Oh, by the way, iPhone, official phone of Packers Therapy.
That's true. I'm thinking as I hear what our listeners do for a living, I feel like there's two kinds of people in this world. There are people that listen to our podcast,
right.
And there are people who are not very smart.
So you're saying there are two kinds of people listen to our podcast and those who voted for Trump.
Oh,
no, that's not true, because I know we have some of our listeners did vote for Donald Trump, including I believe our chaplain did as well, and I respect the heck out of our chaplain.
Yes, let's not make this political. There's no reason to go there.
He leads us in prayer before every podcast.
He does.
Well, I mean, I'm sure he does down in North Carolina, but we don't actually do that here. So I would hold your hands, though, if you were in the same room with me, because I like that kind of thing. Anyway, very thoughtful
so
email.
Strange.
I know, very odd. But Jared's an engineer. Tom's is an attorney. We got a couple of doctors. We have a lot of people in the computer professions. Don't forget, who made our theme music. So we got a lot of. I don't know why that just makes no sense whatsoever.
Really,
smart people.
Opposites attract.
I guess so. Jared too. Stanford, nice way to go, Jared. I like that. Anyway, Tom, who happens to be a graduate of the University of Wisconsin Law School, which is one of the finer institutions of its kind in America, writes a very thoughtful email to us. And he says, I challenge you to think if we are being too paternalistic about the injuries to Shields and Montgomery, because I have expressed, and I think you agree, our concern about whether or not Shields should continue to play or Montgomery, given the seriousness of his sickle cell trait going on. And so Tom was saying, are we being paternalistic? Who are you or who am I to tell Shields or Montgomery that they shouldn't play anymore for their own good? Within some broad limits, doesn't that have to be their choice? Montgomery, with a Stanford education, like Jared, I might add, might have better opportunities ahead of him outside of football, but let's face it, lots of football players don't have great options outside of athletics. So when you say you shouldn't play anymore, you are sort of telling them that they should be beer truck delivery drivers rather than have the glamour, fame, and fortune of a professional athletic career despite the risks. I don't know. I just have some problems with that. And I got to say, I think Tom is spot on. He mentions it's kind of a libertarian stance, and I think that is probably true. But I think there's a lot of truth, and it is kind of paternalistic and maybe a bit condescending as well, because I don't know, what kind of options exist for these guys outside of football. I think Shields is probably okay because he signed a $40 million deal, and I think he's going to get most, if not all of that money. I think he's going to be okay. Ty Montgomery, I think, is probably going to sign a second contract, and he can fall back on his Stanford education. I think he'll be fine. I am a little bit paternalistic, and I think Tom might be a couple of years older than I am, but I'm to the point where I'm kind of paternalistic about a lot of people. There's people on my staff who are dealing with some health things, and I find myself worrying about them like I would about my own family. So I think my attitude is probably not entirely respectful to grown men. They can make their own decisions, and well, they should. So I think Tom's points are well taken. And I thank you, Tom, for challenging us. And we do appreciate all of the stuff. Via email, you can write to me and to Dave at our email address, packerstherapy@yahoo.com. Let us know what you think. I think Tom's points were well taken. And if you have differing views on anything that we say, we hope that you will be in touch with us in the same way that Tom was. And if you're cruising around the internet, do check out his blog, West Coast Offensive, and that's our member of our legal team. In fact, I think he might even be our general counsel. I think he might be for domestic affairs at least.
Yeah, someone has to.
Yeah, because we have international lawyers in the UK.
Yeah, and we need legal protection.
Lots of it.
Yeah, it's medical advice, scripts, all that is nice, but we do need coverage from a legal perspective. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, Chuck in touch with us. Poor dude. I mean, he had to sit through that game. I mean, I know that he and his wife, they, go over to Nashville, and I think you gave him some really good ideas about where to stay, and they're going to have this nice weekend and watch the game. And I get a couple of emails from Chuck after the game, and it was a rough one. Sorry you had to sit through that, my friend.
But hey, Nashville at this time of year, it's pretty warm.
Yes.
It's still pretty warm in St. Louis, and I imagine it's even warmer in Nashville. Nashville is, I bet you they had a great time. Win or lose, I mean, obviously you'd like to see a victory. But say the Packers pull it out, I think you'd still be pretty nervous about this team. So Chucky's got to focus on the fact that he hopefully saw some great live music, hopefully got some good restaurants in there. I bet you he's okay.
Well, the guy is one of the patent holders on the iPhone. I think he's just fine. Okay,
yeah, probably. I don't know why he's not sitting on the 50-yard line on the second row.
Yeah, the weird thing is the guy rocks an Android phone, which is I don't understand that at all. It's just weird.
He does not.
No, he doesn't. Of course he doesn't.
All right.
Man invented the damn iPhone.
All right.
So anyway, yeah. Then we also got some tweets. Patrick in touch from Ireland. John. Once upon a time from Scotland, I believe still living in the north of England, was in touch with us via Twitter after the game as well. Khan from Australia in touch with us as well. All around. How many time zones? We got the best time zones. We got huge time zones. It's all good.
Nothing but the best time zones. You're right.
Exactly. We got the best time zones.
If you're in a bad time zone, don't bother.
Exactly right. So anyway, thank you to everybody that took the time this week to be in touch with us. We appreciate your listening, taking the time to be like Logan after the game, shooting us a couple of tweets. Really do appreciate that. Jameis also checking in with us. So to all the people who take the time to correspond one way or another, thank you. Thank you for your support, especially those that were kind enough to send a couple of dollars to us through PayPal. All of that means a lot. And all kidding aside, too, the fact that we have so many people that are so accomplished in what they do, whether it be in engineering or medicine, law, the clergy, we really do like to hear from you guys. A lot of smart people listening to this podcast. And the fact that it means enough to you that you would take some of your time to listen to a couple of doofuses like us talk about our shared interest in the Packers means a lot, and I know it keeps me going every week, Dave, and I think you feel pretty much the same.
It does. Pop culture?
I think it's time.
All right. For me, I am smack dab in the middle of Walking Dead, Westworld. Westworld continues to just confuse the heck out of me.
It mystifies, yes.
I hope it answers all the questions it raises. But it's a fun show, and it's hard not to watch.
I think that's a good way to put it. It is a fun show. Yeah.
I saw the first episode of The Affair on Showtime. The episode 1 just kind of came out, so I watched that. That is a really interesting show. But really, the revelation, other than I've been reading Gunslinger, and I'm almost halfway through. I'm at the point where Brett Favre just threw the bomb to Sterling Sharp in the end zone against Detroit in the playoff game.
What a play. When he rolled left and threw back to his right.
What I didn't remember is that all they needed was a field goal to win that game, and the defense, like Detroit, kept playing short, thinking that you'd go for the field goal play, and a 10, 20, 30-yard pass. and Favre didn't care. He chucked it to the end zone, and Sharp was wide open. And they talk a little bit about why he was so wide open. It was because Detroit was playing for kind of the intermediate pass, which makes sense.
Right.
But Gunslinger's been fun. I just bought it. Well, I have it on Audible, and then I got it at the library, so I'm enjoying that. But really, the revelation I had this week is I found a new app that I now use on my Apple TV. Shout out to Chuck.
He didn't invent that, though.
No, but I'm
No.
sure he could probably send us new ones, when they come out with different versions.
Oh, I'm sure that he will.
Yeah. But there's an app called VidAngel. You probably haven't heard of this. And
No, I don't have Apple TV. That's about the only Apple thing I don't have.
you can actually have this app on your iPad, iPhone, whatever. It's VID and then Angel. And
Okay.
the way it works is you can rent movies. Basically, you can buy movies and then sell it back. And for standard definition, it would be $1 net. And for high definition, it would be $2. So you can basically rent movies for $1 or $2. But the trick is, which is great for my kids, there's so many movies I'd like for them to see, but there's always like one scene or two scenes in there that I want to block out. Well, what this deal is you rent the movie and basically you own the movie. So you pay like $20 for the movie. And then since you own it, you can adjust the movie and it will list out all the offensive, whether language, sexual things, violence, all that stuff. And you can erase them all out of your movie and then play it, and then you sell it back, and the net is you're out $1 or $2 depending on the definition. So my daughter and I, we rented a scary movie that we've wanted to see, but there's a couple of scenes I just want to X out. You can go in there and manually kind of X out the scenes that you don't want to see, or you can just say, look, all the swear words, just take them all out, and it'll just bleep them out. And we watched this movie that we never would have watched without this thing, and she got the gist of the movie. It was scary, but all the really, kind of disturbing scenes were cut out. So if you have kids, I would think kids more like junior high and above, because you probably shouldn't be watching, bad movies with your, 7-year-olds or anything. But, if you want to have an app that cuts that stuff out, if you've got kids, we've got listeners that have kids, this is kind of a cool thing. So, VidAngel was my revelation pop culture reference of the week for me.
Censorship, Dave? Really?
Yes. Yeah.
Censorship? Thanks. Yeah.
It's my movie. I can censor.
So that's what you're teaching your kids, that censorship is cool.
Yeah. If I could have
Wow.
watched the Packer game
Wow.
today, and
Absolutely.
I could have
Wow.
X'd out all the bad plays.
It would have been very short. It would have been a very short broadcast.
Would have been a nice 15-minute watch. Would have been a lot more fun. I could have gone back to doing something more productive.
Like reading Jeff Pearlman's book, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I've got I'm sorry. Do you have more, Dave?
I know. Other than the chapters where Brett Favre apparently scored all across Wisconsin.
Is that right?
Well, I don't know. So do you?
He was a married man, Dave. How can that be?
I think I don't think he's married yet in the book, but he was.
Well, that's right, because he was. He and Deanna had their daughter, but they weren't hitched.
No,
Yeah.
and actually, they did actually move in together, but that didn't slow him down apparently.
Oh.
And it says at some point everyone in Wisconsin has a Favre drinking woman story. I don't have one. Do you?
I don't have one either.
Yeah.
I was kind of busy in those days trying to build what passes for a career.
Yeah, I guess. But if you lived in Green Bay, apparently, or in the northern Wisconsin region, you have a Favre/drinking/woman story. And so,
I'll have to ask Mike about that because he was living there then.
Yeah, all right, yeah. So I'd be curious what those stories are. But, I mean, they talk about that there were bars in Milwaukee that had rooms for Packer players. Have you ever
Wow.
heard? Yeah.
Awesome.
there's Taylor's? Have you ever heard Taylor's in Milwaukee?
No.
Okay. Yeah, well, we didn't roll that way, right?
No, we didn't.
We did not.
No,
so,
we didn't. Yes.
Anyway, so but the book is good. It's a lot of fun, and given his Hall of Fame, and some listeners may not have been Packer fans back in the Brett Favre years. Our entitlement starts with him, as much as he was kind of a gunslinger in every way of his life. It's an interesting book. I would highly recommend it so far. Your turn. Sorry.
I finished finally the third season of *Halt and Catch Fire*, and that show, after a kind of a disappointing first year, really has it's caught fire.
Oh.
It is really wonderful. I mean, right now, The Americans remains, I think, the best show on television. But I got to put *Halt and Catch Fire* right up there with anything else that's on. It's not as good as The Americans, but the last two seasons have been progressively better, and they've done just a wonderful job with that. So I can't recommend it enough. It's been renewed for a fourth season. It'll be its final season. Grit your teeth, get through the first season, and you'll be rewarded with excellent second and third season. But my new recommendations, I actually have two of them. One's a podcast. It's called Packers Therapy. Oh, no,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. No, it's a different podcast.
I heard it sucks.
Yeah, well, it's good for a couple of laughs if you got an hour and a half to waste on it. There's a podcast called Here's the Thing. It's from WNYC in New York City. It's an interview program. The host is Alec Baldwin, but the people he interviews are quite interesting. And I listened to two of them while I was coming back from the Badger game yesterday. One was an interview with Gordon Lightfoot, sort of a folk pop guy, late 60s through the 70s into the 80s. Excellent interview. And also Michael Stipe, the frontman from REM. And these are long-form interviews, and they're very well done, and there's a whole bunch of them. Alec Baldwin, I don't find him to be annoying. He's just doing kind of straight interviews with these people. It's not really about him. If you don't care for him too much, don't worry about it. It's mostly about the interviews that go on. Although I would like it if he would do his character from Glengarry Glen Ross. That would be a podcast I think would be worth listening to for sure.
It's good Trump too.
He does. I mean, it's remarkable how good he is on that. I give him a lot of credit, though. The podcast, he doesn't make it about himself, and he really does. He researches the people that he's interviewing. He asks good questions, but they are 45 minutes to an hour long, so you have to put it on maybe on one and a half speed. But it really is worth it. The Michael Stipe and Gordon Lightfoot interviews are quite good. So I would recommend the Here's the Thing podcast. And also I have a music recommendation I don't think I've made before on this podcast. But there is a guy who I would recommend checking out. You have to go to Bandcamp. If you've been around the internet, I bet you probably know Bandcamp. And you can check out a guy named Mike Behrens. Mike Behrens, his last name is spelled Behrens. Mike Behrens. He's from Duluth. I met him when he was living in Madison. We worked at the same place for a while. And at that time, he had just recorded an EP. You'd buy it for a couple of bucks. And it was kind of cool. It came in instead of in a sleeve, it came in a flannel shirt pocket. So that was, and that kind of gives you a sense of the kind of music it is. It's singer-songwriter stuff, and he's since refined himself a bit in his most recent recordings. They are quite good if you like sort of that, roots rock, alt country, singer-songwriter kind of genre. You can check out his stuff, the full form things at Bandcamp. Name is Mike Behrens. And you can buy this stuff too. If you like, you can buy it dirt cheap there. I think you can buy a CD for $5 or something like that. And it really is worth checking out, especially if you're from the upper Midwest. A lot of the themes of the songs involve, being in the outdoors and in the woods and in the Great Lakes and that kind of stuff. Some really compelling stories and some fun stuff as well that he does. So I would check that out. It's also it's free to listen to it. It's all streaming at Bandcamp. So check out Mike Behrens.
All right. Speaking of Alec Baldwin, do you watch Saturday Night Live by chance?
Not I watched the clips, I mean, the day after it, there's always
Yeah.
a lot of viral stuff out there. So I watch it that way, but I don't sit down and invest the hour and a half in it.
Well, you've probably seen the spoofs
Oh,
on the
yes.
debates on Hillary
Oh, yeah,
and Trump.
sure, yeah.
Did you see the opening last night where they?
No, I read about it where they kind of did a homage to Leonard Cohen, who passed away this week. By the way, his son is the lead man from the Low Millions, Adam Cohen. Definitely check out the Low Millions too. But yes, I understand that they had Hillary, or the Hillary character, behind the piano doing kind of a Leonard Cohen-esque hallelujah thing, which I guess was effective. I just read about it. I didn't see it.
Yeah, it was a bold choice. I saw it, and it's exactly, you don't have to watch it because you just described it, and it's nothing different than that. But a very interesting choice. I wondered what they were going to come out with after the Trump victory, and that's what they went with, which I thought was an interesting choice. I guess time will tell whether it was successful or not as history looks back on it. But I thought that was very interesting. But that's my pop culture for the week.
Yeah, and that's mine too. So we've covered the betting lines. We've covered the correspondence. We've talked about pop culture. I think we might have talked about the game too somewhere along the line.
Barely, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, barely? Very, very good, Dave. Oh, you are the witty one, aren't you, sir?
We didn't play the Bears. That wasn't a pun.
Oh, yeah, but they're the primordial rival of the Green Bay Football Packers.
If I said it was a Titan failure or a...
Which I think is probably what we're going to title this one, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's go with, or how about Titan-ick failure?
Very good.
There we go.
That's basically how the titles come together.
Usually we agonize about it for 15 minutes, so it'll be much easier this week. In fact, when they lose, it's a lot easier. Maybe it would be good if they lost the rest of the games. No.
Yeah, creativity is easier when you're angry. You're right, or sad.
Well, I wouldn't know anything about creativity, Dave, but I'll take your word for it on that.
All right.
Okay, Packers lose in embarrassing fashion, I guess you might say. It was not pretty. Hopefully, this podcast was cathartic in some ways. Maybe made you smile or laugh at our buffoonery along the way. Things have been better for Packer fans. I have a feeling that in the future they will be better too. Right now, it's a difficult stretch. As the Packers fall to 4-5, still just a game off the pace in the NFC North. So all hope is not lost. Packers will play again this weekend coming up. The week from now, they've got the Washington Redskins at Washington. Dave and I are making a commitment to watch, and we will make a commitment to talking about it after the game is over. But until that time, I'm Chris.
And I'm Dave.
And that's Packers Therapy.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Dave.
And that's Packers Therapy.